So glad to see you all this morning. First off, I really need to apologize for the abruptness of how last Thursday's video ended. My storage got full, and when it got full, it just went and it was done. So for that, I'm super sorry. And I didn't get it. It should have been Thursday's reading, but I did not get it to Miss Jacy until a little later in the weekend because I forgot. And for that, I apologize also. So you probably are going to have like 3 videos this week. One that should have been from last week that's already been uploaded. And then today's reading, which is Tuesday, and then Thursday's reading. So our story was kind of getting pretty good, I thought, at about the cut point. Harry was buying all of his stuff for school, and Hagrid had offered to buy him his birthday gift, which was going to be an owl. So that's kind of where we are. I'm trying to see exactly, let me kind of scoot this back a little bit. Trying to see exactly where I stopped because it was a little weird and hating where it kind of stopped. But I think I'm going to stop where he's outside the apothecary. Now, an apothecary is just a fancy word. Well, not a fancy word. It's an old word for what we would call a pharmacy. And used to, like 100 years ago, or even further back, you went to an apothecary to get a variety of herbs and specially grown items, and then you took it home and you kind of mashed it up yourself and you seeped it or boiled it, and so you made your own medications from it. So an apothecary is pretty much like a pharmacy, except that you buy the medicine in its very rudimentary form, and rudimentary means more basic form. It's not already in a nice pill form. It's not already in that liquid that you drink sometimes, but it's where you're having to create it yourself once you get it home. So he is outside the apothecary, and that's where we're going to start. So outside the apothecary's, Hagrid checked Harry's list again. Just your wand left. Oh yeah, and I still haven't got you a birthday present. There we go. Harry felt himself go red. You don't have to. Well, I know I don't have to. To tell you what, I'll get your animal. Not a toad. Toads went out of fashion years ago. You'd be laughed at, and I don't like cats. They make me sneeze. I'll get you an owl. All the kids want owls. They're dead useful. Carry your post and everything. 20 minutes later, they left Elop's Owl Emporium, which had been dark and full of rustling and flickering and jewel-bright eyes. Harry now carried a large cage which held a beautiful snowy owl, fast asleep with her head under her wing. He couldn't stop stammering his thanks, sounding just like Professor Quirrell. Don't mention it, said Hagrid gruffly. Don't expect he had a lot of presents from them Dursleys. Just Ollivanders left now. Only place for wands. Ollivanders, and you gotta have the best wand. A magic wand. This was what Harry had been looking forward to. Well, the last shop was narrow and shabby. Peeling gold letters over the door read, Ollivanders, makers of fine wands since 382 BC. A single wand lay on a faded purple cushion in the dusty window. A tinkling bell rang somewhere in the depths of the shop as they stepped inside. It was a tiny place, empty except for a single spindly chair, which Hagrid sat on to wait. While Harry felt strangely as though he had entered a very strict library. He swallowed a lot of new questions which had just occurred to him and looked instead at the thousands of narrow boxes piled neatly right up to the ceiling. For some reason, the back of his neck prickled. The very dust and silence in here seemed to tingle with some secret magic. "Good afternoon," said a soft voice. Harry jumped. Hagrid must have jumped too, because there was a loud crunching noise and he got quickly off the spindly chair. An old man was standing before them, his wide pale eyes shining like moons through the gloom of the shop. "Hello," said Harry awkwardly. "Ah, yes," said the man. Yes. I thought I'd be seeing you soon, Mr. Potter." It wasn't a question. "You have your mother's eyes. It seems only yesterday she was in here herself, buying her first wand. 10 1/4 inches long, swishy, made of willow. Nice wand for charm work." Well, Mr. Ollivander moved closer to Harry, and Harry wished he would blink. Those silvery eyes were a bit creepy. "Your father, on the other hand, favored a mahogany wand, 11 inches, pliable, a little more power, and excellent for transfiguration. Well, I say your father favored it. It's really the wand that chooses the wizard, of course." Well, Mr. Ollivander had come so close that he and Harry were almost nose to nose. Harry could see himself reflected in those misty eyes. Sounds a little creepy, doesn't it? And that's where Mr. Ollivander touched the lightning scar on Harry's forehead with a long white finger. "I'm sorry to say I sold the wand that did it," he said softly. 13 1/2 inches. Powerful wand, very powerful. And in the wrong hands, well, if I'd have known what that wand was going out into the world to do." And he shook his head and then turned to Harry's relief and spotted Hagrid. Rubus Hagrid, how nice to see you again. Oak, 16 inches, rather bendy, wasn't it?" "It was, sir." "Yes," said Hagrid. "Good wand, that one. But I suppose they snapped it in half when you got expelled?" said Mr. Ollivander, suddenly stern. Yes, they did. Yes," said Hagrid, shuffling his feet. "I've still got the pieces, though," he added brightly. "But you don't use them," said Mr. Ollivander sharply. "Oh, no, sir," said Hagrid quickly. Harry noticed he gripped this pink umbrella very tightly as he spoke. Said Mr. Ollivander, giving Hagrid a piercing look. "Well, now, Mr. Potter, let me see." And he pulled a long tape measure with silver markings out of his pocket. "Which is your wand arm?" Well, I'm right-handed," said Harry. "Hold out your arm. That's it." And he measured Harry from shoulder to finger, then wrist to elbow, and shoulder to floor, and knee to armpit, and around his head. As he measured, he said, "Every Ollivander wand has a core of a powerful magic substance. Mr. Potter, we use unicorn hairs, phoenix tail feathers, and the heartstrings of dragons. No 2 Ollivander wands are the same, just as no unicorns, dragons, or phoenixes are quite the same. And of course, you will never get such good results with another wizard's wand." Harry suddenly realized that the tape measure, which was measuring between his nostrils, was doing this on its own. Mr. Ollivander was flitting around the shelves, taking down boxes. "That will do," he said, and the tape measure crumpled into a heap on the floor. "Right then, Mr. Potter, try this one. Beech wood and dragon heartstring, 9 inches, nice and flexible. Just take it and give it a wave." Well, Harry took the wand and, feeling foolish, waved it around a bit. But Mr. Ollivander snatched it out of his hand almost at once. "Maple and phoenix feather, 7 inches, quite whippy. Try." And Harry tried. But he had hardly raised the wand when it too was snatched back by Mr. Ollivander. No, here, ebony and unicorn hair. 8 1/2 inches springy. Go on. Try it out." Harry tried and tried. He had no idea what Mr. Ollivander was waiting for, and the pile of tried wands were mounting higher and higher on the spindly chair. But the more wands Mr. Ollivander pulled from the shelves, the happier he seemed to become. Tricky customer. Not to worry. We'll find the perfect match here somewhere. I wonder now. Yes, why not? Unusual combination. Holly and phoenix feather. 11 inches. Nice and supple. Well, Harry took the wand and he felt a sudden warmth in his fingers. And he raised the wand above his head and brought it swishing down through the dusty air. And a stream of red and gold sparks shot from the end like firework, throwing dancing spots of light onto the walls. And Hagrid whooped and clapped, and Mr. Ollivander cried, "Oh, bravo! Yes, indeed! Oh, very good! Well, well, well! How curious! How very curious!" He put Harry's wand back into its box and wrapped it in brown paper, still muttering, "Curious, curious, curious." "Sorry," said Harry, "but what's curious?" Mr. Ollivander fixed Harry with his pale stare. "I remember every wand I've ever sold, Mr. Potter. Every single wand. And it so happens that the phoenix whose tail feather is in your wand gave another feather, just one more. And it is very curious indeed that you should be destined for this wand when its brother, its brother gave you that scar." Well, Harry swallowed. "Yes, 13.5 inches, you. Curious indeed how these things happen. The wand chooses the wizard, remember? I think we must expect great things from you, Mr. Potter. After all, he who must not be named did great things. Terrible? Yes, but great." Well, Harry shivered. He wasn't sure he liked Mr. Ollivander too much. And he paid 7 gold galleons for his wand, and Mr. Ollivander bowed them from his shop. Well, the late afternoon sun hung low in the sky as Harry and Hagrid made their way back down Diagon Alley, back through the wall and back through the leaky cauldron, now empty. Harry didn't speak at all as they walked down the road. He didn't even notice how much people were gawping at them on the underground, laden as they were with all their funny-shaped packages. And with the sleeping snowy owl on Harry's lap, up another escalator out into Paddington Station. Harry only realized where they were when Hagrid tapped him on the shoulder. "Got time for a bite to eat before your train leaves," he said. He bought Harry a hamburger, and they sat down on plastic seats to eat them. While Harry kept looking around, everything looked so strange somehow. "You all right, Harry? You're very quiet," said Hagrid. Harry wasn't sure he could explain. He'd just had the best birthday of his life. And yet, he chewed his hamburger, trying to find the words. "Everyone thinks I'm special," he said at last. "All those people in the leaky cauldron, Professor Quirrell, Mr. Ollivander, but I don't know anything about magic at all. How can they expect great things? I'm famous, and I can't even remember what I'm famous for. I don't know what happened when the night my parents died." And Hagrid leant across the table, and behind the wild beard and eyebrows, he wore a very kind smile. "Don't you worry, Harry. You'll learn fast enough. Everyone starts at the beginning at Hogwarts. You'll be just fine. Just be yourself. I know it's hard. You're being singled out, and that's always hard, but you'll have a great time at Hogwarts. I did. I still do, as a matter of fact." And Hagrid helped Harry onto the train that would take him back to the Dursleys, then handed him an envelope. "Your ticket for Hogwarts," he said. "1st of September, King's Cross. It's all on your ticket. Any problem with the Dursleys? Send me a letter with your owl. She'll know where to find me. See you soon, Harry." The train pulled out of the station, and Harry wanted to watch Hagrid until he was out of sight. And he rose in his window and pressed his nose against the window, but he blinked, and Hagrid had gone. Now, if any of you have ever watched the Harry Potter movies, you're going to realize that the book is just a little bit different in places, and this is a prime example of that. If you watch the movie, that is not how Harry makes it to Hogwarts. At this point in the movie, he would have got onto the train, not go back to the Dursleys. So this is something new. Chapter 6, The Journey from Platform 9 3/4. Well, Harry's last month with the Dursleys wasn't fun. True, Dudley was now so scared of Harry he wouldn't stay in the same room. While Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon didn't shut Harry in his cupboard, force him to do anything, or shout at him. In fact, they didn't speak to him at all. Half terrified and half furious, they acted as though any chair with Harry in it was empty. Although this was an improvement in many ways, it did become a bit depressing after a while. Harry kept to his room with his new owl for company. He had decided to call her Hedwig, a name he had found in a history of magic. His school books were very interesting. He lay on his bed reading late into the night, Hedwig swooping in and out of the open window as she pleased. It was lucky that Aunt Petunia didn't come in to hover any more, because Hedwig kept bringing back dead mice. Every night before he went to sleep, Harry ticked off another day on the piece of paper he had pinned to the wall, counting down to September the 1st. On the last day of August, he thought he'd better speak to his aunt and uncle about getting to King's Cross Station next day. So he went down to the living room where they were watching a quiz show on television. He cleared his throat to let them know he was there, and Dudley screamed and ran from the room. Uncle Vernon? And Uncle Vernon grunted to show that he was listening. I need to be at King's Cross tomorrow to go to Hogwarts. And Uncle Vernon grunted again. Would it be all right if you gave me a lift? Grunt. And Harry supposed that meant yes. Thank you. And he was about to go back upstairs when Uncle Vernon actually spoke. Funny way to get to a wizard school, the train. Magic carpets all got punctures, have they? And Harry didn't say anything. Where is this school anyway? I don't know, said Harry, realizing this for the first time. He pulled the ticket Hagrid had given him out of his pocket. I just take the train from platform 9 3/4 at 11 o'clock, he read. His aunt and uncle stared. Platform what? 9 3/4. Don't talk rubbish, said Uncle Vernon. There is no platform 9 3/4. Well, it's on my ticket. Barking, said Uncle Vernon. Howling mad, the lot of them. You'll see. You just wait. All right, we'll take you to King's Crossing. We're going to London tomorrow anyway, or I wouldn't bother. Well, why are you going to London? Harry asked, trying to keep things friendly. Taking Dudley to hospital, growled Uncle Vernon, to get that ruddy tail removed before he goes to smelting. Well, Harry woke at 5 o'clock the next morning and was too excited and nervous to go back to sleep. He got up and pulled on his jeans because he didn't want to walk into the station in his wizard's robes. He'd changed on the train. He checked his Hogwarts list yet again to make sure he had everything he needed. Saw that Hedwig was shut safely in her cage, and then paced the room, waiting for the Dursleys to get up. 2 hours later, Harry's huge, heavy trunk had been loaded into the Dursley car, and Petunia had talked Dudley into sitting next to Harry, and they had set off. They reached King's Cross at 10:30. Uncle Vernon dumped Harry's trunk onto a trolley and wheeled it into the station for him. Harry thought this was strangely kind until Uncle Vernon stopped dead, facing the platform with a nasty grin on his face. Well, there you are, boy. Platform 9 and platform 10. Your platform should be somewhere in the middle. They don't seem to have built it yet, do they? He was quite right, of course. There was a big plastic number 9 over one platform and a big plastic number 10 on the one next to it. And in the middle, nothing at all. Have a good term, said Uncle Vernon with an even nastier smile. He left without another word, and Harry turned and saw the Dursleys drive away. All three of them were laughing. Harry's mouth went rather dry. What on earth was he going to do? He was starting to attract a lot of funny looks because of Hedwig. He'd have to ask someone. Well, he stopped a passing guard, but didn't dare mention platform 9 3/4. The guard had never heard of Hogwarts. And when Harry couldn't even tell him what part of the country it was in, he started to get annoyed, as though Harry was being stupid on purpose. Getting desperate, Harry asked for the train that left at 11 o'clock. But the guard said there wasn't one. In the end, the guard strode away, muttering about time wasters. Harry was now trying hard not to panic. According to the large clock over the arrival boards, he had 10 minutes left to go, or 10 minutes left to get on the train to Hogwarts, and he had no idea how to do it. He was stranded in the middle of a station with a trunk he could hardly lift, a pocket full of wizard money, and a large owl. Hagrid must have forgotten to tell him something you had to do, like tapping the third brick on the left to get into Diagon Alley. He wondered if he should get out his wand and start tapping the ticket box between platforms 9 and 10. At that moment, a group of people passed just behind him, and he caught a few words of what they were saying. Packed with muggles, of course. Harry swung around. The speaker was a plump woman who was talking to 4 boys, all with flaming red hair. Well, each of them was pushing a trunk like Harry's in front of him, and they had an owl. Heart hammering, Harry pushed his trolley after them. They stopped, and so did he, just near enough to hear what they were saying. Now, what's that platform number? Said the boy's mother. Well, 9 3/4, piped a small girl, also red-headed, who was holding her hand. Mom, can't I go? You're not old enough, Jenny. Now be quiet. All right, Percy, you go first. And what looked like the oldest boy marched toward platform 9 and 10. Harry watched, careful not to blink in case he missed it. But just as the boy reached the divide between the 2 platforms, a large crowd of tourists came swarming in front of him, and by the time the last rucksack had cleared away, the boy had vanished. Fred, you're next, the plump woman said. I'm not Fred, I'm George, said the boy. Honestly, woman, call yourself our mother. Can't you tell I'm George? Sorry, George, dear. Only joking. I am Fred, said the boy, and off he went. His twin called after him to hurry up, and he must have done, because a second later, he was gone. But how? How had he done it? Now, the third brother was walking briskly toward the ticket barrier. He was almost there, and then quite suddenly, he wasn't anywhere. There was nothing else for it. Excuse me, Harry said to the plump woman. Well, hello, dear, she said. First time at Hogwarts? Ron's new, too. She pointed at the last and youngest of her sons. He was tall, thin, and gangling, with freckles, big hands and feet, and a long nose. Yes, said Harry. The thing is, I don't know how to. How to get onto the platform? She said kindly, and Harry nodded. Not to worry, she said. All you have to do is walk straight at the barrier between platforms 9 and 10. Don't stop and don't be scared. You'll crash into it. That's very important. Best do it at a bit of a run if you're nervous. Go on. Go now before Ron. Okay, said Harry. And he pushed his trolley around and stared at the barrier. It looked very solid. He started to walk towards it. People jostled him on their way to the platform 9 and 10, and Harry walked more quickly. He was going to smash right into that ticket box, and then he'd be in trouble. Leaning forward on his trolley, he broke into a heavy run. The barrier was coming nearer and nearer, and he wouldn't be able to stop, and the trolley was out of control. He was a foot away. He closed his eyes, ready for the crash. It didn't come. He kept on running, and he opened his eyes. A scarlet, steam engine was waiting next to a platform packed with people. A sign overhead said Hogwarts Express, 11 o'clock. Harry looked behind him and saw a wrought iron archway where the ticket box had been, with the words platform 9 3/4 on it. He had done it. And smoke from the engine drifted over the heads of the chattering crowd, while cats of every color wound here and there between their legs. Owls hooted to each other in a disgruntled sort of way over the babble and the scraping of heavy trunks. The first few carriages were already packed with students, some hanging out of the window to talk to their families, some fighting over seats. Well, Harry pushed his trolley off down the platform in search of an empty seat. He passed a round-faced boy who was saying, "Gran, I've lost my toad again." "Aw, Neville," he heard the old woman sigh. And a boy with dreadlocks was surrounded by a large crowd. "Give us a look, Lee, go on." And the boy lifted the lid of a box in his arms, and the people around him shrieked and yelled as something inside poked out a long, hairy leg. Well, Harry pressed on through the crowd until he found an empty compartment near the end of the train. He put Hedwig inside first and then started to shove and heave his trunk toward the train door. He tried to lift it up by the steps but could hardly raise one end, and twice he dropped it painfully on his foot. "Want a hand?" It was one of the red-haired twins he'd followed through the ticket box. "Yes, please," Harry panted. "Oh, Fred, come here and help." With the twins' help, Harry's trunk was at last tucked away in a corner of the compartment. "Thanks," said Harry, pushing his sweaty hair out of his eyes. "What's that?" said one of the twins suddenly, pointing at Harry's lightning scar. "Blimey," said the other twin. "Are you?" "He is," said the other twin. "Aren't you?" he added to Harry. "What?" said Harry. "Harry Potter," chorused the twins. "Oh, him," said Harry. Yes, I am him." The two boys gawped at him, and Harry felt himself going red. Then, to his relief, a voice came floating in through the train's open door. "Fred, George, are you there?" "Coming, Mum." With a last look at Harry, the twins hopped off the train. Well, Harry sat down next to the window where, half hidden, he could watch the red-haired family on the platform and hear what they were saying. And their mother had just taken out her handkerchief. "Ron, you've got something on your nose." And the youngest boy tried to jerk out of the way, but she grabbed him and began rubbing the end of his nose. And he wriggled free. "Ah, has Ickle Ronnie got something on his nose?" said one of the twins. "Shut up," said Ron. "Where's Percy?" said his mother. "He's coming now." The oldest boy came striding into sight. He had already changed into his billowing black Hogwarts robes, and Harry noticed a shiny red and gold badge on his chest with the letter P on it. "Can't stay long, Mother," he said. "I'm up front. The Perfects have got 2 compartments to themselves." "Oh, are you a perfect, Percy?" said one of the twins with an air of great surprise. "You should have said something. We had no idea." "Hang on. I think I remember him saying something about it," said the other twin. "Once or twice a minute all summer." "Oh, shut up," said Percy the Perfect. "How come Percy gets new robes anyway?" said one of the twins. "Because he's a perfect," said their mother fondly. "All right, dear. Well, have a good term. Send me an owl when you get there." And she kissed Percy on the cheek, and he left. And then she turned to the twins. "Now you two, this year you'll behave yourselves. If I get one more owl telling me you've blown up a toilet or blown up a toilet, we've never blown up a toilet. Great idea though. Thanks, Mum. It's not funny. And look after Ron. Don't worry, Ickle Ronnikins is safe with us." "Oh, shut up," said Ron again. He was almost as tall as the twins already, and his nose was still pink where his mother had rubbed it. "Hey, Mum, guess what? Guess who we just met on the train?" and Harry leant back quickly so they couldn't see him looking. You know that black-haired boy who was near us in the station? Do you know who he is? Who? Harry Potter. Harry heard the little girl's voice. Oh, Mom, can I go on the train and see him, Mom? Oh, please. You've already seen him, Jenny, and a little boy isn't something you goggle at in a zoo. Is he really, Fred? How do you know? I asked him. Saw a scar. It's really there like lightning. Poor dear. No wonder he was alone. I wondered. He was ever so polite when he asked me how to get on the platform. Never mind that. Do you think he remembers what you-know-who looks like? Their mother suddenly became very stern. I forbid you to ask him, Fred. No, don't you dare. As though he needs reminding of that on his first day at school. All right, keep your hair on. And a whistle sounded. Hurry up, their mother said as the three boys clambered onto the train. They leant out the window for her to kiss them goodbye, and their younger sister began to cry. Don't, Jenny, we'll send you loads of owls. We'll send you a Hogwarts toilet seat. George, only joking, Mom. And the train began to move. Harry saw the boy's mother waving and their sister half laughing, half crying, running to keep up with the train until it gathered too much speed. Then she fell back and waved. Harry watched the girl and her mother disappear as the train rounded the corner. Here's kind of a little idea of what everything will look like. And this is a great place for us to stop today. I'll see you back on Thursday, guys. Enjoy today. It's supposed to be super nice this afternoon and tomorrow on Wednesday. So make sure to spend some time outside. Bye.